Why do people suffer? Why is there pain in life? All of us have wondered this question, right? The Buddha has answered it beautifully, and the Buddha's answer really feels relevant even today. What makes Buddha fascinating is that he does not try to explain the universe, he tries to explain suffering. When most of the philosophers ask about reality, God, and truth, Buddha begins with something much more human. He asks that why are human beings restless, anxious, dissatisfied, afraid, and emotionally trapped? And that is why, even after 2500 years, his philosophy feels strangely modern. The Buddha's starting point is that life contains dukkha. That is the foundation of Buddhism, the first noble truth. Life contains dukkha, sarvam dukham. Now, dukkha is often translated as suffering, but that translation is incomplete. Dukkha also means dissatisfaction, restlessness, incompleteness, and subtle unease. Buddha was not saying that life is only misery. He was saying that even good things are unstable, and because they are unstable, the mind suffers. For example, you get what you want, you have fear of losing it. You don't get what you want, there is frustration. You age, there is anxiety. If you succeed, comparison begins. If you fall in love, fear of loss appears. If you become famous, pressure increases. Even pleasure carries tension inside it. That is Buddha's central observation, that you can never be completely satisfied in the material world. Then why does suffering exist? That is the second noble truth. Buddha says that suffering comes from tanha, that is craving, attachment, thirst, desire. The mind constantly says, I want this, or I must avoid this, or I want life to stay this way forever. But reality keeps changing and does not match your expectations, and therefore the mind keeps colliding with reality. Buddha's insight is that the problem is not reality itself, the problem is your mind's relationship with reality. Buddha's concept of impermanence is that the universe never stops changing. Everything is impermanent, anicca. Everything changes. Our bodies, emotions, relationships, success, civilizations, thoughts, stars, galaxies, nothing remains fixed. And this creates suffering. Because human mind wants permanence, certainty, and control. But existence gives change, uncertainty, and loss. And this clash creates psychological suffering. Buddha also says that the self is not what you think it is. The radical Buddhist idea is called annata or no permanent self. Buddha argued that what we call I or me is not a fixed soul like entity. Instead, a person is constantly changing process of thoughts, memories, sensations, emotions, habits, like a river, always flowing, never identical from moment to moment. This matters because our suffering arises from clinging. We cling to my identity, my status, my image, my story. Buddha says there is no permanently fixed you to defend so desperately. The third noble truth is that liberation is possible. This is the hopeful part, where Buddha proves that he is not just a pessimist. He gives a clear cut solution out of suffering. He says if craving creates suffering, then reducing craving reduces suffering. Not by destroying life or hating pleasure, but changing your relationship with desire. This state is called as nirvana. And what is nirvana? Nirvana is not heaven or eternal pleasure or luxury. It is freedom from compulsive craving and psychological suffering. A mind that no longer clings desperately, no longer panics, and no longer depends entirely on external conditions for peace. He gave the middle path. Before enlightenment, Buddha tried extreme luxury and extreme self denial, and he rejected both. So, Buddhism teaches the middle path. It says that you must avoid indulgence and self torture both. Balance matters. The eightfold path, a practical system. Buddhism is not just philosophy, it's a training system. The eightfold path includes wisdom, which includes right view and right intention, ethical living, which includes right speech, right action, and right livelihood, and mental discipline, which includes right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Mindfulness is the most famous Buddhist idea today. Mindfulness means observing thoughts and emotions without instantly reacting to them. Instead of becoming every thought and obeying every impulse, you just observe fear, anger, craving, and anxiety like clouds passing through the sky. That is why modern psychology loves Buddhism. Buddhism also talks about God, but Buddha never answers the question about God. Many people say that Buddha is agnostic, but the truth is that Buddha decided not to answer the question deliberately because he felt that the question about God or metaphysics was a distraction, the distraction from the more urgent matter of suffering. Buddha was unusual because he did not focus on creator God theories or worship of an all powerful deity or metaphysical speculation. He kept bringing the discussion back to suffering. He did not deny God in the atheist sense, but he did not teach a creator God who controls the universe. People used to ask Buddha many metaphysical questions. Is the universe eternal? Is there a God? What happens after death? Very often, Buddha refused to answer directly because he thought many such questions did not reduce suffering, so they were not relevant. He gave the analogy of a poisoned arrow. Imagine a man shot by a poisoned arrow. Instead of removing the arrow, he insists, I want to know who shot the arrow. What caste was that person from? What wood is the arrow made from? Where did the poison come from? Buddha says the man would die before getting answers. What this means is that humans obsess over abstract metaphysics while ignoring immediate suffering. This is classical Buddhist, practical psychology over speculative theology. So, Buddha did not say that do not believe in God, but to reduce suffering and cultivate awareness, God is not really relevant in Buddha's worldview. That is Buddha on God. Buddha was not at all pessimistic. At first glance, he sounds very negative that life is suffering, everything changes, attachment hurts. But Buddha's goal was not despair, it was freedom from unnecessary psychological pain. He did not say that life is hopeless. He said that human mind keeps creating suffering for itself. If we reduce everything to just one sentence, that human suffering comes largely from craving, attachment, and resistance to impermanent reality, and peace comes from awareness, balance, acceptance, non-violence, and reduced attachment, then that is the core of Buddha's philosophy. Buddha was not trying to explain the stars, he was simply trying to explain the storm inside the human mind. And that is the reason he still feels very much relevant and alive today. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and share the video and do subscribe to The Nerd.